Olá e bem-vindos ao episódio 0 do podcast Listen and Learn, a podcast about Portuguese culture. This entire podcast will be spoken in Portuguese, as it is a podcast made for you to learn Portuguese or to get more acquainted with the language. With the exception of this first introduction in English, where I will be quickly answering to the two most important questions about this podcast. First, why am I making this podcast? Second, who is this podcast for? Okay, so why am I making this podcast? If you already had a look at my website www.withsylvia.com, then you already might have a little idea about me. Resuming, I'm a Portuguese girl and a native speaker. I grew up in the north of Portugal around Porto area, but I currently live in the Algarve, in the deep south of the country, where I teach Portuguese. More specifically, I live in Vila do Bispo, the most southwestern point of Portugal. It is a beautiful town that has captured the heart of people from all around the world. It's curious to see that about 40% of this little town are expats. Most of my friends here, they are also expats. I came to realize that there is a big barrier existing between locals and expats, two beautiful groups of people that want to connect but that not always know how to do so. I believe that in order to break this barrier, it is really important to learn the Portuguese language, to connect these two worlds. But I also understand that learning a new language is not an easy process. I also lived many years abroad. I know how hard it can be, but also how cool it is when you finally get it. And it is a present that you offer to yourself, a present of a lifetime. You can offer yourself more knowledge, more independence, and connection with the locals and the culture. I also know how easy it is to speak your way through in English, and there's nothing wrong about it. That's really nice. But for those who want to learn Portuguese, it is actually hard to hear and to get in touch with the language when everybody around you is actually speaking in English. So, this is why I am working on this podcast. I saw that my students who learn the fastest are the ones that are more in touch with the language, that have more opportunities to listen to it. So, I want to give you all the possibility of immersing in its sounds, words, and melody. Second and last question. Who is this podcast for? For those who want to learn how to speak properly Portuguese, but also want to learn about the culture. Because language, it is culture. And you can way better understand one if you understand the other. If you are an intermediate speaker, this podcast is specially for you. You will get much more vocabulary, slang, expressions, and knowledge about the culture and the Portuguese habits. If you are still a beginner, no problem. The better way of learning a language is listening to it as much as you can. Maybe you still need another way of study, but when you are chopping potatoes for dinner, when you are waiting for the bus, when you are on your way to work, driving your car, you can also be listening to this podcast. Even if your brain is not understanding everything, it is getting acquainted to the sounds, and a very important shift is already happening there. Okay, to finish this episode 0, I come to ask you to support my work. It makes a huge difference for me if you are following me or subscribing to my podcast in Spotify, YouTube, or other platforms. Also, in Instagram and on TikTok, I am sharing almost daily content that is specially made for beginners and intermediates. If you really like my work and you want to support it even further, you can make a symbolic donation per month by subscribing on this platform that is called Patreon. In this platform, if you subscribe, you can get to much more videos and way faster. They will be released there way before they are released on YouTube or in Spotify, so you will have much more episodes and you can manage your rhythm much more. You can find all of these links in the description of every episode. For last, if you are around Vila do Bispo area and you look for a face-to-face course through my website www.withsylvia.com, you can also find a way to contact me. Okay, enjoy the next episodes, share it, comment, and let me know what you hope to hear about in the next episodes. Até ao próximo episódio!